Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to do a real quick, well, as long as it needs to be. I'm going to do an in-depth on how I get out on the ice, what I'm using to pull my gear, and kind of an overview of the Squealer, the infamous Squealer. You guys know what I'm talking about if you're not new here, but if you're new here, stay tuned. You won't be disappointed. Okay, so I'm going to do this in my garage today. I'm just going to get it taken care of, but as you can see, there's the machine, there's the sled. I'm going to go into a little bit better detail than obviously that, and a few of you guys wanted me to go into real in-depth detail of the front of the Squealer so you guys can build your own. So I'm going to try and describe that in a fabricator sense, so if you're interested in that, stay tuned. I'll try and get into that for you. Okay, so as you can see here, this is an otter cabin. It says it right on the cover. And then that right there is an otter tow hitch with the quick release pins. And then I had to actually go buy this. It doesn't come with it. It should. It's a little hitch pin. And that is to connect it to that. That is the Squealer, the infamous Squealer. I'm going to go into a lot better detail on that in a second. I almost forgot about it, but I think I showed you guys in an earlier video. So I have a battery bracket inside here, and that's what this screw and these screws up here are for. And what I did is on one of the screws, I replaced it with a stainless steel bolt, and attached it that way. So now when I just had one of the subscribers come out with me, I tied his sled up with this, and towed him right behind this one, right with my shack. And because it's hooked up to that and directly to that, makes life easier getting more than one person around on this the ice. Sure beats walking. Okay, so we'll get into the meat and potatoes, the whole details of that in a second here. I'm just going to go over some of the little things that people might want to know about this little beast. This is, I believe, an 83 or an 84 185 three-wheeler, obviously converted. I forgot what tires those are. I can't quite see them right now. Obviously, they have tire chains. If you're going to do this with these, you have to put tire chains on. You just can't get away with it out, because I have those light chains on there and it still spins the tires. I was actually thinking of getting some beefier ones with more links in sequence, just so it's a little bit more grip on the ice, because I'll spin those if it's just been sitting around for a while, and the skis actually kind of sink into the ice if it's a warm day out, and then they kind of freeze in place. This is the most valuable decision I think I've invested in to add to this. When I bought this, it was already built like this, and it already had this rack added to it. I don't know if the 185s came with racks, but obviously you could probably put one on from like a Big Red or something pretty simple. But then this is a Digger auger carrier. The company's name is Digger. You can see it right there. They're really good company. I actually had a problem with something. Wasn't like a major thing. It was actually kind of my fault, but they still helped me fix it. I had actually lost this hook, and they sent me a new one for free. So shout out to Digger for hooking me up with a really rigid rack. What's another thing? Oh, so people might be wondering why I have this sitting on a board like it is. Any kind of wheeled vehicle in the winter, if you let them sit on the cold concrete, you can end up with flat spots in them. And you can actually see on this tire from somebody letting that's the front tire of the machine, sit for too long, it ended up with a flat spot in it. So I have it sitting here on its side. Let's get into that. The main reason why everybody wants to see this thing. And I'm kind of excited to talk about it because I'm a fabricator at heart. I like to make things, so let's get into it. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see really well. I don't have lights in this garage. It's just a storage shed for me basically. But I'm gonna go over everything in a real close detail. I'll get close-ups for you guys, and I will explain basically how you can build it yourself. and mind you, I didn't build this, but I know I could have built this because I had the same kind of engineer mindset as far as building contraptions like this. So the way this is built, I believe these are Ski-Doo Ski-Doo skis. So they have a much higher lip on them, and I don't know what year they were. I got a pair of spare ones that aren't built quite the same. But if I were you guys, I would highly suggest looking into these ones with a high lip on them, because that has helped me get up over a lot of heaves at speed when I'm not paying attention on glare ice, because this thing doesn't really like to stop quick. So if you come up on a lip or something like that and you don't have a high ski, you might end up, yeah, worst case scenario. But that is going to be the big thing that I'm thinking for you guys. The rest of this stuff is pretty simple stuff. These are leaf springs, obviously flipped upside down, and I believe they're from a small trailer, like the one that I towed this on. They're very light duty. I think I'm 215 or something like that right now. But like you can see, if I push on them like that, they give, and that's just my left leg, just barely me stepping on it. So with those, they do help a lot, absorb a lot of vibration and stuff in your handlebars. And I can tell you right now from what's coming through it, if you had anything stiffer than a really light duty leaf spring, you're gonna be hurt. Obviously you need 2 of those. And then the rest of the stuff is really simple. I'm pretty positive this is a square tubed axle, because these look like a regular axle that's going through that. But don't quote me on that. You might need to do square tubing with like a long bolt or a long piece of round stock steel. So like a solid piece of steel, and then thread it on the ends, because these are just bolts, or like a threaded end with a nut on it to keep it all compressed together. In the middle of this, you have a center pin pivot, which I'm gonna guess this little C channel and C channel. Yep. So these are 2 C channels back to back. And this is obviously, it's all, you have to measure it all out so it's centered square. There's an extra hole drilled into the forks here. Let me get close up for you guys. This is going to be really hard to show from far away. Okay, so like I was showing you, so those are 2 C channels back to back. And the way that it was centered on the actual axle itself and punched through with a center pivot like that is because I can't do it on the cement right now, but as you pivot, turn left and right, you need to have a rotational camber for like inside outside. If you know anything about car tires, when you go around a corner, your tires actually lean in and out, and that's basically just to keep you in the proper amount of traction. If it was just a straight rigid thing, one side would dig in more than the other. So I hope you guys understand how that works. These look like just heavy stock, flat steel. Like, what is that? It looks like 1/2 inch. And then, like I said, on the standard forks, they just put bolts or holes through the bottom ones. That's where your regular tire would mount, or your regular axle for your front tire would mount. But then they drilled through the forks up on top and bolted them in from up there so that you have a rigid mount, so there's no twisting. So that's all one solid piece that way. The only other thing is that's just square stock, pretty heavy duty stuff. Looks like quarter, maybe 1/2 inch, but heavy duty enough that when you put 2 bolt holes in it, it's not going to tear when you're mounting it to your leaf springs. The easiest way to describe it is, so the way everything works together here is like, as you turn left and right, these pivot, and as they push down harder, the spring gives. So as I showed you when I stepped on that, it pivots, touches that metal, that pressure goes down, pushes down on that, allowing you to keep both skis with your body weight in contact with the ice or snow, so like as you're driving, one doesn't lift up as you turn. So it's a really ingenious thing, and it's very, very simple. Obviously it takes your 3-wheeler, makes it viable for the ice. A lot of people should know that, you know, if you're driving it and you're driving with the one tire, like I have sitting back there, you're trying to drive around on snow, it plows the snow really bad. And they do make a single ski for the front, but that still does the same thing. It just pushes and plows the snow. It makes pretty bad. This thing still does pretty good, all the way up into, I think I had 7 to 8 inches of snow, and I was still able to get it through. The one thing that did happen, like I said, is the tires would spin a little bit. So that's why I'm thinking I'm going to get a different set of chains for it, so you can get a little bit more grip.
Okay guys, so I really hope that helps some of you guys out make your own little beast of a squealer. It is a really fun machine to play around with. Like I said before though, be expected that if you don't have those really tall skis, I'm pretty sure those are old like 90s Sea-Doo skis. I'm not positive, so you'd have to look around and try and find them, but make sure you find one with a good tall attack angle, because the shorter it is, you come up onto a heave real fast, and yeah, it'll be bad news. I'm really happy I have those, because I was being dumb one day, flying along, topped out, and I looked up, and there was about a 4 to 6 inch step, and it was from a tall heave that had melted down in the rain that day, and then basically was just where the ice was uneven, and I couldn't see it because it was getting dark out. I was flying along, and I just held on, and it was a little rough, but I still got over it. So thankfully those skis are tall, so that's a big tip I want you guys to take home from this one. The other thing is the fabrication of everything. You just have to have an understanding of measurements and like center points. You want to make sure that's a dead center, obviously even from each side and from where you mount the skis, because if it's a little off one way or the other, I'm sure it'll steer wrong and you'll have a bunch of problems down the road. What is it? Measure twice, cut once. Do that with everything. Measure twice, cut once, measure a million times, drill once. Get it right the first time. Don't cost yourself a lot of money. And honestly, that build up front, you could probably put that all together for like maybe $100 at most. Because you can go on Craigslist or some buy-sell trade thing, buy some junk skis off of somebody that's not using them, or some that are laying around. The square stock's going to be the most expensive stuff that I can think of. Same thing with like that axle that fits in there. Unless that is, like I said, a small axle off of something like a trailer off of like a brush trailer. You know, those little square trailers that you put brush in, like something you put behind your lawnmower. That kind of thing. There might be a little trailer. Like, you got to really get inventive and try and think of all the different outlets of how you can build an axle that'll fit properly into those square tubes that can mount to the skis or the suspension part. You might even be able to just get it all together. So hopefully that helps you guys out. I'm just trying to make sure I get everything I can conveyed to you guys so you can go build your own. I got lucky. I actually knew the guy that built the very first one that I'd seen. I went and bought his because I told him I wanted it like 8 years ago, and that's proof they, you know, if you can get a Honda, they run forever. So I'm gonna cut it short here. I'm getting winded talking about this thing because I love it so much. It's such a neat little tool, and I'm really happy because I've been walking for years. If you're still around, obviously you know I've been walking for years. I've never had a machine. That's why last year I kept going up to Lake Winnebago, because I could drive on it the whole time and cut out all the walking. I will still walk if needed, especially if it's on a good bite. So stay tuned for future videos. It's getting cold, real cold, so we're going to have a lot more options for me to take that squealer out. And really, I want to hunt down some big fish still. I got a lot of goals this winter still, so stay around, guys. Thank you guys all who are subscribed. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to the next goal. I'm thinking we're going to do like a 5,000 goal. Once I get to 5,000, I think I might give away a shack. I might do a shack. Let me think. I might do a shack, an auger, possibly a rod and reel setup. get you guys started. So keep that in mind. Pass it around to your friends. Obviously, if you're not new here, you already know what's going on. But if you're new here, please just remember to